Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 11th episode of the Media Magpie Podcast. Now, as I'm recording this episode, it is the 1st of Jan, 2025. So I will say, Happy New Year. It's 2025 now. Like, oh my God. Honestly, the year just went by. It just went by in a flash, and it's just crazy how the year just went by. And a lot of stuff happened during this year. I mean, I started this podcast this year, and honestly, it's one of the best things I could have done, like doing this podcast. I love it. And I mean to do this episode, and just, as I said in the Instagram post, stuff happened. But we're here now. I'm recording this episode, and in this episode, I'm going to be talking about a video game. And it's a video game that I believe, actually, it was the first Naughty Dog, because it's the company who was behind The Last of Us, which I've talked about and is one of my passions of like my favorite game of all time. If you'd seen that episode, I believe this game in particular, Uncharted 4: A Thief's Tale, was actually the first first Naughty Dog game I played. Well, first Uncharted game I played, yep, but first Naughty Dog game I played. And honestly, it's as much as I love The Last of Us as well, I love this game too. It has a spot in my heart as well. It's definitely there. And I believe as well, this was actually a game that I spent my first all-nighter on. Which, before we dig into the sort of behind the scenes and like the story of the game, I'm going to sort of talk to you. I'm just going to mention my story about my all-nighter. So basically, while I was playing the game, and it was late at night, and my dad said, "All right, Connor, it's time to go to bed. You got to go to bed." I'm like, "All right." So then I don't turn off the PS4. I leave it. I turn the TV off. I go into bed, wait a bit, just chill out, pretend I'm asleep, yada, yada, yada. Go back downstairs and continue playing Uncharted 4 because it was just a sick game that I just got hooked on. And I was like, I love it. I can't stop playing. I'm not gonna go to sleep when I can play this game. And I'm pretty sure that I didn't sleep. And then the next day, I believe I remember I went to go see a movie. If I'm correct, I believe it was Bad Neighbors 2 with a mate of mine ages ago. And then I remember phasing in and out, sort of struggling to watch the movie. And then after the movie happened, I ended up going back home, playing more Uncharted 4. And something I don't remember is that I had passed out on the couch. But the funny thing is for me, it felt like it was for a second I passed out and I woke up. And all I hear is my parents yelling, dinner time. And funnily enough, apparently I passed out with my eyes open. Like, my brother told me that I was out with my eyes open. That's how bad it was. And I'm like, oh my God. So that was sort of my first all-night gaming experience. And yeah, it was definitely, I mean, to be fair, I didn't have like any coffee or any energy drinks or anything. It was just pure staying up, looking at the screen. So, and yeah, so I didn't have it. And that was sort of my experience of doing that. But I've learned from that experience, and and I mean, when I'm tired, I'll go to sleep. And I don't force myself to stay up too late these days when I play games and everything. But yeah, but that's sort of my little experience of Uncharted. Anyway, as we talk about Uncharted, let's get into the game. So Uncharted is a game, as I said, made by Naughty Dog, which came out in 2016. And it is, again, the fourth entry of the game. So I heard about this series before, like, when it came out. And these games, I didn't even know. I can't remember off the top of my head when the first one came out. I should have put that down in my notes. But yeah, this game it was one of the games that was well known from Naughty Dog. And it was actually, and Uncharted was made before The Last of Us. It was actually in 2009, when Naughty Dog was making the development of Uncharted 3, the one before 4, they actually split into two teams. So one team did Uncharted 3, and the other team did The Last of Us. Sort of just splitting the workload and everything, which was interesting. But basically, getting back to Uncharted 4, in Uncharted 4, it continues the story of Nathan Drake, who is voiced by Nolan North. And it sort of starts off, you see, you know, Nathan Drake, he's kind of retired. It starts off his several years. He's working the job as he's just a salvage guy, salvaging stuff on the water, you know, little treasures here and there. He's got like a, you know, job now. He's not really going out treasure hunting and doing all that stuff. He's just living the normal man's life as it is. And I mean, realistically, Nathan Drake was sort of a normal guy. He is a normal guy. He's just sort of put himself in these situations looking for these treasures and sort of ended up in, you know, all these fights and, you know, all these gunfights and met these wacky people that are looking for the same treasures he's looking for. But in this game, we see it starts out that he's sort of settling down. You know, he's done with that life. He's got his wife, you know, who he met in, I believe, he met in the first game, and they developed their relationship over time in the games, and he's happy. You know, he's a happy guy. He's living the life. Or so it seems that he's happy with his life. Because then something comes up, and he realizes that he misses that adventure. He really, really misses that adventure. And we'll get more into that. We'll get more into the talks of what the adventure entails and what he searches for, like the treasure that he searches for. Because there's always, the reason why he goes on this is always for the treasure. And it's not sort of just to, you know, be rich or anything. It's just the thrill of the adventure. That's what he loves to do. He loves the adventure aspect of it. And going on and sorting out these puzzles and going through these caves and, you know, doing all that stuff. And even then, he still questions why he does it, because he kills a lot of people in like the games. Like, man, he's a maniac. So just to get to the treasure, he has to kill a lot of people. Then again, you know, whatever, it happens. You know, it's a video game. But yeah, to get into the game mechanics. So Uncharted, it's in a third person perspective, and it's sort of like there's a lot of traversal in the game. In particular in this one, grapple hooks, which I really, really loved when they brought this in with the grapple hook. And just swinging around and then just, traversing around. It's very good. The traversal is great in the game. It's always been great. I did go, after playing the fourth one as my first one, I did go back and play Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. And I gotta say, all amazing games. And honestly, in all fairness, I think Uncharted 3 is maybe up the top of my list, if not Uncharted 4. Look, it's hard. Maybe I'm biased. Uncharted 4 might be the top. Uncharted 3 very close to being my first, if not second. But yeah, it's great. Like, it's an amazing series. Yeah, basically, so, you know, there's a lot of traverse around, like climbing and swinging on poles. And I always find that stuff very fun. Like, a game that I probably love for traversal is like Spider-Man, because the swinging, it's just so satisfying and so fun. I could swing every day. It's kind of similar to that, where it's the traversal of you climbing around, sort of, you know, figuring out where to go and climbing all these rocks and everything, and worrying that, oh no, one might fall or whatever, which a lot of things do tend to break around Nathan Drake. He's not the luckiest guy when it comes to like walking around and climbing and walking on bridges. The planks might fall. It always happens to him somehow. So he doesn't have a good luck in that sense. But it's just I guess I had pure enjoyment in doing like that stuff. It's like, you know, traversal games are definitely probably a favorite of mine. I love that sort of type of stuff in video games. And then in particular with this one, something that was sort of worked towards, and then they did more, which they learned actually from The Last of Us, is that they really improved on the dynamic between the characters and sort of the side conversations that they had. Because something in The Last of Us, as much as the story is what it is, the sort of character interactions is what makes the story important. But then, as well, as much as there's Sully, there's also Nathan's brother Sam, you know, which we never, in the series, never heard about him. Like 1, 2, and 3, never seen. Like, never, I think he might, I don't know if he was mentioned, I can't remember, but yeah, never been seen. So he's seen in this one, which is voiced by and played by Troy Baker, the guy who voiced Joel and is like an amazing man. And I met him as well, which is quite insane. So yeah, but it's a very good game, and just the characters and the cinematic. It's a very cinematic game. Like honestly, a lot of the games now these days, and just even particularly like story games, sometimes it just, as much as you are playing the game, it's also just very movie cinematic wise, and it's like you can really get yourself into it. And I remember playing, I really got involved in these characters and this story, and it's just amazing and bizarre. But yeah, so as I said, the characters, we've got Nathan Drake, who's played by Nolan North, Samuel Drake, who's played by Troy Baker, Victor Sullivan, played by Richard McGonigal, Elena Fisher, who is Nathan Drake's wife, Emily, she was played by Emily Rose. We have Raph Adler, who is like the enemy, who's also looking for this treasure in the game, is played by Warren Cole. Nadine Ross, which is also like she is like the big boss of this evil, well, no, not really necessarily evil, but this company called Shoreline, was voiced by Laura Bailey, which was cool. She is also in a lot of Naughty Dog games, same as Troy. And then Hector Alcatraz, who is in the game, who is voiced by Robin Ackendowns, who Robin Ackendowns is, if people know Uncharted, or if people even just know Naughty Dog, realistically, but Uncharted particularly, he is in every single Uncharted game. Like, you can't particularly have an Uncharted game without Robin Ackendowns. It's just not an Uncharted game. So he's always in it. So he plays Hector Alcatraz, which I'll explain how that happens and why he's in it. And then this voice actor plays two characters. She plays Evelyn, which was Samuel Drake's Samuel Drake's mum's friend, who they went on adventures with, because their mum was sort of an adventurer too, which we learn during the game. And then she also plays Sister Catherine, because as much as we see the experiences of Nathan and Sam in this game, we actually get to see the past, and there's a lot of flashbacks back to when Sam was living in a chapel nursing home, like in a church with like sisters and all that. And then we get to learn all that story. Which the person who played those two voices, sorry I didn't say, is Merlin Dane Ridge, if I pronounced that correctly, which she plays Marlene in The Last of Us. Both show and video game. She actually plays the live action in the show as much as she voiced in the video, which I found was really quite cool when they announced that. So to get to the plot of the game, so basically it starts off, as I said, Nathan Drake, he's just living a normal life, but then his brother finds him and, comes to his day job and says, and he hasn't seen his brother in years because he thought his brother died. Because the last time that him and his brother were doing an adventure, which they were doing something with Ralph or whatever his name is, they were looking for Henry Avery's treasure, which is a pirate. And Henry Avery was the known as one of the best pirates. He managed to do the best pirate heist ever and steal a bunch of gold. And that's what they were looking for at the time. And then unfortunately, stuff happened and Nathan they lost Sam and they had to sort of run away and didn't know he was. And they thought he was dead. But then they find out later on that he's not dead because Sam tells him that he was actually in jail. Now, the thing is in the game, Sam makes up this story that Hector Alcatraz broke him out of jail and threatened his life to get this treasure, half the treasure for Hector Alcatraz, so he could, stay alive. But realistically, we find out later in the game is that it was actually Raph, who's the guy who's also chasing this treasure in the game along with them, actually just paid him out and he just walked scot-free. And I guess that's because Sam heard of all the adventures of Nathan Drake and heard all the things that he did while he was, away from his brother, and sort of just was, he wanted to, have a cool story of his own, and, he heard the amazing things of his brother, Nathan Drake, and he was like, man, I want to be included in this too. So he made up that story. And he just didn't want to tell his brother that, the bad guy who's been chasing their ass the whole time and trying to kill him and get this treasure, just let him out scot-free. So, yeah. But no, it's very interesting. And they do eventually find the treasure, and it's in the ship, and it sort of, sinks away, and they do manage to get some coins. But, yeah. But no, it's a very amazing game. I love the traversal. I love everything about it. And I love just the character dynamics between, in particular, Nolan North, played by Nathan Drake, or Nathan Drake, played by Nolan North, sorry, and Samuel Drake, played by Troy Baker. Because they're very close friends. Like, before they did this game, they've been very close friends for a long time. And Troy, being, a fan of Uncharted, because he actually got to be a fan of the game before actually being in the game, which was very cool. He was so excited to jump on the train of being in this game. And I mean, he was happy to, he knew that, so Neil Druckmann also he was director for this game. He, loved working with Neil for The Last of Us, so he knew that this, when Neil pitched him the idea that, hey, we want you on Uncharted 4 as the big brother, Troy Baker was in. And even though Troy Baker's actually younger than Nathan Drake, he still kind of, felt that role of playing a part, and they did that playfulness that they have of the, sort of the big brother relationship, and it was just nice. It was cool. But yeah, and then as well, something that sort of, I guess, we see in the game as well is that Elena, so going between the relationship of Elena and Nathan, is that Elena's sort of like, in her very own right, she first met Drake as a photographer, just doing all the photography stuff, doing a film for his adventures. But then she becomes a very big part of his life, and then, other things happen, and then he marries her, and obviously we see that in Uncharted 4, they live in the happy married life. But she, she sees that in the story because she does find out, because Nathan doesn't tell Elena that he's going on this adventure and finding Captain Avery's treasure. She goes to seek him out and finds him, and then, is very upset that he's lied to her all about this. But then she realizes that, to be honest, something that they didn't have in their relationship is that, just the excitement and discovery of the treasure. Because when Elena witnesses that, Nathan's excitement about, his discovery of the captains, she realizes it was what's missing for them as a couple. And that's sort of getting to see him as the adventurer she sort of loved. Because she fell in love with this adventurer. This is the guy she fell in love. Not sort of... And look, of course, you got to settle down, you change, things happen. But she sort of sees that this is the guy that she liked. And this is what he needed to sort of keep that. And they needed that to keep that relationship going. And, I guess in particular, there was a scene when Nathan and Elena were actually trapped together and, cooperating to escape. It's sort of like a metaphor, basically saying how in which, they're drawing close and they got to work together and sort of figure it out. And that's sort of how, relationship works in a couple. You can't, just because you're having an issue, you just step away from it. You have to, work together to resolve that problem. You can't just, leave it. You can't just see a problem and go, nah, that's it. I can't fucking deal with that. It's not something I want to do. No, in a relationship, you have to deal with problems head first and work on it together. And it might take time, but it's just what you got to do. And that's sort of what they include in this game. So there's a lot of interesting things about the sort of character dynamics in this game, which I really love. And it's sort of, and again, as I'm saying, it did, in this game in particular, it sort of focuses more on the relationship between Elena and Nathan. And making sort of, Nathan Drake feel more, I guess, humanized in a sense, more in the previous games. Because as much as he's an adventurer and as much as he goes on these adventures, does these wacky, crazy things, climbing, cliffs, crossing bridges, swinging around like a monkey, on poles and all that, he's still just human, He definitely gets hurt a lot, like a lot. He falls down, he's in pain, he's still, human. He doesn't just get up so easily. And I guess in this game we sort of get to see that in a emotional sense instead of a physical sense, which I really, really like about that in this game. So it's not just sort of just the adventure side and the fun, it's a lot more, development, which I feel like, honestly, something that Naughty Dog do really well. And I've loved their work in sort of the character development in that sense. But yeah, and then, something that's I've always loved about Naughty Dog is that instead of them just putting the characters in a booth, like the voice actors who portray the characters, they're in a booth and they're just saying their lines, they actually mocap it. And they actually perform it, they actually do it. And something that the voice actor who plays Sully, whenever he did a video game, it was new for him, Richard McGonagall, who voiced Sully, that's his name. First time he did Uncharted, he felt that, all right, I'm just going to be in a booth, doing all these lines. But then he got told, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to move this. And he was like, whoa, wait, I'm moving? What? This is a video game, right? I'm just going to be talking lines. He's like, no, we're going to be doing mocap. And he had no idea what mocap was. But I feel that just what makes this game even more cooler is because they actually the actors have to put themselves in the roles of the characters, much less just say, the lines in the game. And it's just amazing. And it really shows the love and passion that Naughty Dog have for their games. And also just to use that technology for something instead of just, making them have to voice it. They, do the actions of it. And it just makes it easier for them, I guess. They use that to put in the game and then obviously show it in the cutscenes. And it's amazing. It's crazy. But yeah, so we'll move on to the soundtrack. So the soundtrack of the game was done by a guy named Henry Jackman and Alex Blecher, and they composed the soundtrack. And I will admit, mate, the music in this game really gets in the feels for me. When I'm just exploring and just sort of going on, just walking through these amazing sceneries of the trees and all the buildings, all the broken buildings. The music that's something in games that games really need. Like, as much as I feel like the main key things for me in games is story, music, and character development. That's sort of the main three for me. Gameplay, gameplay only needs to be a thing. Graphics, sure. But realistically, graphics is not a big thing for me. The main thing in a game is really... And I mean, some games don't have story, but if anything, it needs to have music. Because music, as much as it's just sound, it's very important when it comes to, anything media-wise. Because imagine watching a horror movie without music. It would be a lot less scarier without music. You just see this person running away and this person walking, trying to chase them, and it's just nothing. It's just dead silent. The music adds to the intensity, adds the vibes. You feel it. You feel like you're in this world, and you feel like you're in it, and you're watching, and you're like, holy shit. And that's what the music does in this game for me. And I loved it. And music, so I feel like music, every part of a game, bits, gameplay and all that is very important. But music to me is just, it's so much more needed than people probably would think. But I think everyone knows that. But it's still, I appreciated this music. And then in regards to other recording stuff, other than the soundtrack, in regards to dialogue, over 55,000 lines of recorded dialogue was recorded. I mean, how insane is that? That's a lot of dialogue. Because, I mean, there's a lot of, Nathan Drake does have a lot to do, a lot of grunts, and then when he's getting shot, nah. And then, and then Sam has to do it and all that stuff. And there's a lot of, little things that they have to do. And then a lot of side conversations that happen, which, again, they pop up, you can see it and everything. And sometimes you can miss them. If you're not in the right place at the right time and you don't see the prompt for when there's this, side conversation, you can miss it. But, it's, that's a lot of recorded stuff. They obviously do these over, years and years where they do the mocap and the recordings and everything. And it's great. And the game has approximately 165 minutes of cinematics. So that's 165 minutes. That's a decent, I don't know how many that is in hours. I can't, because 60, that's at least I think nearly 3 hours if I'm correct. So that's longer than a movie. Like that's insane. That's longer than a movie. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And the cinematics in this game are wild. Like they're just crazy. The whole game is just amazing. Like it's a game that I don't go back to too often, but I do need to probably play it. I mean, I feel like the story, it sucks that it doesn't suck, but I would like to, in particular, same with The Last of Us, I'd love to just, brain wipe my brain for like just for a day, or just for like when I played this game, just to play it again all over again, but then get those memories back, because I still want to remember when I first played the game. But then again, I feel like it makes it special. I still have those memories from then, and then I can look back on them. So, I say I want a memory wipe, but I can still appreciate the game with me knowing the story. It's still that amazing. So, and in regards to when they were doing the recording techniques, there was a lot of outdoor recordings to sort of capture and make sort of authentic environment sounds, which is very good. I like that they want to make it very authentic, very real. So they did a lot of outside recordings, and that, they wanted to make sure that the environment felt alive as you sort of progressing through, which is very good. And then there was also sound changes based on player interactions with the environment, such as walking and walking through bushes. So how that all happened, like how they did that, which was, I feel like that's good. Like when you're, maybe when you get shot, you sort of say a different thing. Having all those little details makes a game important. So that's always very good to see. And then they traveled to California and Nevada to record Jeep sounds. So they made sure realistic they were using Jeep sounds, because there's a Jeep in the game, and that's how you traverse around. Which in this game there wasn't too much sort of like car, like traversing around in vehicles as much as I think the other games, if I'm correct. It was more focused on the character development and the characters, which I feel is more important than any other thing in a game. If it's a story game, character development is what's important, and focusing on the characters as much as the story, because the characters are involved in the story, and they what make the story happen. So giving the characters the details and the attention that they need is very important, more than giving the story the attention. Because once you give the characters sort of the attention, it sort of makes realistically the story will sort of work around those characters and work with the characters, and then it will flesh out the story along with those characters. So it's important. Character development is very important when it comes to story games. And again, Naughty Dog, I feel like do that very well. I love Naughty Dog's work. They're great. Now let's get into sort of the legacy and I guess sort of the reception of this game, like what people thought. Anyway, this game, a lot of people loved it. It was critically acclaimed for its gameplay, its narrative, its visuals, and it did have a multiplayer, which I didn't play too much of the multiplayer. I found it okay. I mean, again, I didn't play too much of The Last of Us multiplayer when that came out either, but it was alright. But again, people loved it for its gameplay and its narrative and its visuals, and it fucking deserved that respect in that regards. And it even got awards and accolades, including several Game of the Year awards when it came out in 2016, which is well deserved. I don't know if it didn't win Game of the Year, but it got Game of the Year awards from other places. It didn't win at the Game Awards, like the big one, but still, it got Game of the Year awards from other places, and yeah. And in regards to sales, it was one of the highest selling Uncharted games and one of the best selling PlayStation 4 titles. Which this was one of the first games that came out on PS4 from Naughty Dog, other than Last of Us Remastered. And yeah, it was one of the best selling Uncharted games. I mean, for a lot of people, including myself, this was probably one of the ones that kick-started a lot of people's experience with Uncharted and how they got into the Uncharted series. So even Tom Holland, who played the games and played all the games, and now plays who played Nathan Drake in the movies, his first experience of the game was Uncharted 4. And they heavily based a lot of the things from the movie from Uncharted 4. So it was definitely one of the games that put it, like, I guess, it was already on the map with the other ones, but this one just stood out a lot more, I think, and it was just amazing. It was great. But yeah, again, it was praised for its gameplay mechanics, narrative, emotional depth, visual design, and multiplayer mode. And it was, again, sales to where we mentioned that it was a high selling, to go how many sales it sold. 2.7 million units were sold in the first week of the game. That's insane. In the first week of the game being out, it sold 2.7 million. Now that's just crazy to think that 2 million people bought this game in its first week. And it's just great. It's well deserved, and I'm sure it has sold a lot since then. I probably could have looked that up, but it has sold a lot. And again, it got a lot of awards, and it was well deserved. Well deserved. So overall, Uncharted is just, it's like, it's hard to, pick a favorite. Well, it's not hard to pick a favorite Naughty Dog game. It's Last of Us for me. But Uncharted 4 does hold a sweet spot for me. And I love it. It's a great game. And I love the adventure that, Sam and Nathan go on. They look for this pirate treasure. Like, we're going to go search for some pirate treasure. And I was very intrigued. I actually even did research on pirates and captains and all that, in my spare time. And it was just very cool. So yeah, I do like this game a lot. It is on the list of my favorite games of all time, and it probably will stay that way for a long time. It will never leave. And while we're on the topic of Naughty Dog, something I did want to mention this episode as well is that I don't know if people heard, and I always keep up to date with stuff in Naughty Dog wise, but it was revealed in the Game Awards, last year now, but Game Awards, that Naughty Dog are doing a new game, and it's been in development since 2020, which I did see stuff online that there was a game that Naughty Dog were doing. It was a new IP. No one had a clue of what it was going to be about. And yeah, they revealed it at the Game Awards, and it was, oh my god, it looks amazing. I am so keen for it. Out of all the developers out there, I feel like a lot of people are very skeptical when it comes to big games now these days. At least I am, because you see all this hype, you see all this, the trailers, and see all this stuff around all these games. In big particular one that got a massive hype and was a massive letdown, at least for a lot of people and myself included, which I was so ready for, was Cyberpunk 2077. Now look, they've fixed that game and it's better now. I have played it, I haven't finished it, but back when it was first going to come out, I thought it was going to be amazing. And then to see the stuff that came out of it, the glitches and all that stuff, it really puts you in perspective and shows that sometimes, companies don't really put their time and effort. Well, they just rush things. They rush it just to make the money and put it out there, and then just, fix it in post and everything's okay. And it's like, well, no, it's not okay. Imagine if a movie did that. You can't do that in a movie. That's the thing. A movie can't do that. A movie can't just release and then they fix it in post and then they re-release the movie. They can't do that. Video games do have the fortunate thing to do that because they release updates and do all that. But it's just dumb. Just release just set a goal, do a certain portion of the game. If you can't complete it all, then just leave some for later, or just, don't set unrealistic times for it. And I know there's deadlines and they set these things and companies want these to get out and they have crunch times and all that. But just for companies to release glitchy and unfinished games, it's fucked. But I do want to say, after saying all that, I believe that with this new game from Naughty Dog, they won't do that. I have full faith in them that this won't be the case for them, because they are very dedicated in the work that they do when it comes to their games. Now, I have no doubts that they won't. I was going to say, maybe I do have doubts, but no, I have no doubts. They're going to crush it. They're going to make an amazing game, and it looks great. Now, this game It is called Intergalactic, the Hectic Prophecy, or the Heretic Prophecy, sorry. And it's honestly it's a game that I wouldn't expect Naughty Dog to make. Like, it just doesn't look, stands out very differently compared to a lot of the games they've made. Last of Us, Uncharted included. So to get into the game, Intergalactic stars a new protagonist, Jordan A. Mune, who's a dangerous bounty hunter who ends up stranded on Sempara, a distant planet whose communication with the outside universe went dark hundreds of years ago. In fact, anyone who's flown to it hoping to unravel its mysterious past was never heard from again. Jordan will have to use all her skills and wits if she hopes to be the first person in over 600 years to leave its orbit. So it's a space game. It's like it's just something that I would just never, honestly, when I thought of a new IP for Naughty Dog, I wouldn't expect this. It was honestly crazy. So to see them doing this, I'm actually very excited to play this game. And it's going to be on PS5. I actually don't have a PS5, but I guess when this game comes out, I'm going to buy myself a PS5 because I'm going to play this game. And I have to. So I'm buying a PS5 for this game. It's just what it is. Or I'll buy the game and I'll just go over to my mate's place and pay on his PS5, which I might do. Because I'm definitely playing this game first thing. I'm not waiting for it to come on PC. And then, unfortunately, it's not going to come to PC straight away. It's going to be exclusively on PlayStation 5. That's just what it is. That's what Naughty Dog do. They Sony exclusive. Fair enough. I get it. But eventually it will be on PC. But I'll have to wait for, I don't know, a couple of years for that. I mean, I'm so keen for The Last of Us Part 2 to be on PC. Oh my god. I believe that's this year. Oh my god. I forgot when that is. I will have to check. But yeah. And then I did some research on this game. An interesting fact about this game, before it was its own IP, it was actually originally going to be a potential Jak and Daxter game, intended as the fourth entry of the series. Not much of it is known about this version of the game, aside from being considered a soft reboot of the franchise with concept art hinting at a more realistic style opposed to its original sort of cartoonish style. That was sort of what it was going to be, which is crazy to think that they were going to go back to Jak and Daxter. I mean, I didn't play too much Jak and Daxter. We got into it late. I mean, that's very early on. Naughty Dog games, like one of the first Naughty Dog games they did was Crash Bandicoot, which we did get into. Well, my dad played and I sort of, I guess, watched him play it as a kid, but I've played that now and it's, fun game, but hard. But yeah, they were going to go back to Jak and Daxter and make a game of this. But then they realized that, however, the idea was good, they eventually scrapped it as Naughty Dog thought that its direction did not fit with the tone of the previous games and it would sort of act as a disservice to the fans, which I think is the right idea. Because I think, as much as they'd like to go back to something that they'd, done and they worked on with passion, it's good to sort of leave, those things behind, which is what sort of happened, with Uncharted and Uncharted 4. I mean, they did do Lost Legacy, sure, but this Uncharted 4 was like the last one. And they've sort of finished with that series. And that's just sort of what it is. Like, I feel like there's a lot of, movies and TV shows that just sort of like really push out, really can try to continue their stories and push out more and more of that story because it was very popular when it started out. But I feel like it comes to a point when you need to realize that, unfortunately, the story you're making has to end. Because eventually, if you keep pushing it out and keep trying to make more of it, it will eventually... It's hard to, reinvent the same thing, right? The same story, but with different flares. So you need to sort of find the end point and go, okay, as much as we love working on this, this is it. And they've done that with, Uncharted, and they've done that with The Last of Us. I believe that they haven't confirmed there's going to be a Last of Us 3. Well, actually, no. No. Now, I remember hearing that Neil said there will be one more Last of Us story to tell. I think there's going to be one more. Might not be a Last of Us 3, might be a side story. We don't know. But there's one more story to tell of it. We'll find out. But they're not doing that yet. They've been working on this game. And I'm very keen for it. And another thing that came up. It was actually I looked it up. It was in an IGN article, which I found, and the actor, my favorite actor, Troy Baker, he is going to star in the game. Apparently, according to this article, he's going to star in Intergalactic. So we don't know any of the cast. We know a couple of the cast, who's playing who, like the main character and everything, but we know nothing about the game, nothing about the story, nothing of any other characters that haven't been seen in the teaser trailer. So he has been like confirmed to be in it, I think, because in the article, Neil Druckmann says, "In a heartbeat, I'll always work with Troy." And he's always just been someone who I'd work closely with, and that's what it's. Neil Druckmann he just feels like Troy's a very good actor, and they're very close friends when it comes to that. So, and it was mentioned in a GQ article that Troy Baker was talking about Troy Baker, that Troy Baker has signed on to appear in the new game. So I'm very keen for that. But yeah, so that's sort of, the new game as well as much as Uncharted. But like, other than that, just to go back to Uncharted to finish up, Uncharted 4 is just, it's one of those standout games for me. Like, I sort of, when I think of games and gaming in general, like, Uncharted 4 is definitely, like, on the list of games I would full-heartedly recommend to people. So if there's anyone out there that hasn't played this game, as much as I've told the story, I haven't told too much of the story. I mean, I feel like if you still know the story, you can enjoy it. But this game is a fun game. If you haven't played it, I recommend you go fucking play this game. It's an amazing game, without a doubt. And, it's, as much as I would love, more installments of this game and more of it, I feel like where it ended was a great place to end it. Sometimes as I said, you gotta put a pin in something and just say, that's it, we're done, we'll move on to the next thing, do the next thing. And I mean, it's, again, easier said than done to do that thing. So that's why, companies and game developers they want to continue that stuff, because it's really hard to start fresh from a new IP. It's once you've made something successful and you have to start from the very beginning, it's tough. But if you want to be successful in what you do and continue making the media that you want to do in the industry you're in, you need to move on. Unfortunately, you need to move on from what you've made and start anew and do something fresh. And I'm so keen for Naughty Dog when they release this new game, Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophecy. I'm so keen for that. That will be cool. But yeah, so that was the episode 11. I thank you all for listening to this episode. And again, Happy New Year. I can't believe we're already in 2025. The year went just so by quickly for me. I don't know if it went quickly for you guys. And for people who have played Uncharted, let me know, like, in the comments, or just, send me a message telling me your experience of Uncharted, what you loved about Uncharted, because I would love to hear from all of you, all the people that do listen to this. I'd love to hear what you think. But yeah, so this has been episode 11, and yeah. Bye-bye.